And welcome back to another episode of Psychic Evolution. I'm Jamie Clark.
And I'm Maggie Clark, and this is the podcast where you discover the psychic potential within to empower yourself and manifest your psychic and mediumship gifts. Today, we have a very special episode, and we are dedicating this episode in memory of Gia Brown. She is a young 15-year-old girl that was killed sleeping in her bed through gunfire that went through the house. And her family is so dear to my heart. I have known them for many decades, and I love them dearly. They're very close to me. So we are going to put the GoFundMe link to help the family with her services and however they want to celebrate her life. We'll put that link in the show notes, and any donations are greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. Many questions come up after we lose someone, and the biggest one is, how soon can we connect with our loved ones on the other side after they graduate, after they cross over? How soon? So this whole episode will be answering questions about what happens right after you pass and how soon we can make those connections. We also have a few more questions from a listener we'll answer at the end of the episode. How long does it take? This is a very commonly asked question. All the time, people are curious, do I have to wait a certain amount of time before I can make those connections with my loved one on the other side, before I can hear them, before I can experience some type of mediumship experience with my loved ones?
Certainly understandable how people can feel what they do. I can only speak from my own experiences, but I'm just going to share one aspect and experience that happened in a public presentation, and to see how quickly and solidly our loved ones can come through. And not only to us, but if we're not necessarily paying attention, to someone else who's listening, kind of like me, basically. So there was a time a number of years ago where I was in a public presentation and I was giving a couple of people a number of validations about the loved one coming through. And as I was giving that to them, by the end of the reading in this way, they were like, yep, that's him. We just came from the hospital. He died 2 hours ago. I'm like, holy crap. That was amazing. Now, to me, there is no time limit. You don't have to wait, because I believe I've heard of experiences where someone has graduated, died as we perceive it, and at that very same moment, they either paid a visit to a loved one, a dream state experience. It was instantaneous. We are multidimensional beings. And I just want to make you aware, for me, as I always say, the biggest gift that we can give ourselves and our loved ones is to connect with them like they're connected with us, and truly but a thought away. It is instantaneous. And when we can question things but get solid validation to go, yep, that's them, it will give us a chance to begin living with our loved ones in their new world like they're learning to live with us in ours. And in that capacity, I also received some information from the loved ones. And in just this recent one, where it's a beautiful family who has had a younger person graduate life, that as she was coming through to me the other day, she was letting me know a few different things that I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. I didn't even realize. And just one of them was that they were catching up on information. And basically, a loved one who was already on the other side before this other person came in had graduated. But when the other person graduated, that loved one was there waiting for him. And not only that, gave this person some tools and techniques to create a better harmony, a reality, love, empowerment. And it's just for the next phase, because our loved ones love us, but they can't do it for us, but they will do it with us. And in any way that they can give us comfort, they will usually try to do that. It just becomes our awareness to either open up or lighten up in a way that we can question everything, but start making those connections. Because once you're able to make that connection for yourself, you'll begin to live life more effectively than just survive or exist.
And after I heard what had happened, I was driving over to support this beautiful family, and In the car, I felt her. I saw her. She was connecting with her grandmother, who had recently passed 2 weeks prior. So in times of grief, sometimes we second guess, am I making this up? Am I really feeling what I'm feeling? Because you're feeling all kinds of things right after someone passes. You're feeling the sadness, the overwhelming emotional process that you have to go through from losing someone that you love. And then we remember, oh my God, we never lose these people. They are right here. They are just on the other side of this veil that, separates our dimensional reality from their dimensional reality.
And each dimension has its own vibratory rate, which means to me that each dimension is just as solid as this dimension, this third dimension, as we're in. And oh yeah, nothing's solid. It's all vibrations, light, energy, and frequencies. And with a mediumship, I always share the fact that I never, ever talk to the dead. There are none. To me, and I'm not a doctor or a scientist, but as we perceive death is you die in this dimension and then you go to the other side after this. And my thing is one, as I always say, everything's spiritual. 2, life is relative because we as humans are extraterrestrials to everyone else. And aren't we right now living on the other side of where we come from before here? Doesn't that mean we must have died? Or do we realize it's just a shift in consciousness and vibrational patterns of energy, and that we will be eternally alive? There is no death ever. And in this connection, the biggest gift is we're not bugging our loved ones. If they don't want to come through, they're not coming through. They're not made to. They're allowed to. And our loved ones a lot of times want to make sure that we're doing okay and that we know that they are okay. Because there's so many different dynamics that when our loved ones graduate life and we don't have their physical body and their soul essence in a combination that we see every day, you become distant. You become withdrawn quite a bit. And the ability to find your own way of connecting, whatever that might feel like for you, if it's just a feeling, a word, any kind of information and energy that you want to know and feel is going to be open to the other side, that if they feel that they can share information, they'll give us any insight that they can to help us live a better, brighter life. Because, again, sometimes we feel dim and our light goes down and then we're just existing. And I got to say, unless you have your own experiences like myself, thankfully, or unless you do graduate life, every time I connect, it is like the best mood you've ever been in, the best meal you have ever had. Truly, my soul is full and no judgment ever, ever on the universe's part, completely loving and accepting. And that kind of a connection, I got to say, when you feel that and you're like, I don't have to do anything but be me, yep. It's a little bit easier for us when you feel that amazing on the other side to look back at relationships, circumstances, life experiences a little bit differently. Because when you feel so great, you're not trying to heal everything. It's already perfectly healthy. There is no disease. It's what we slow down to that will create that heaviness in our soul, and understandably so. But they want us to be able to be happy the best that we can because they know they're going to see us again. And it's that kind of connection that love brings us all together.
We have to remember we are pure energy beings. So, yes, our energy incarnates into a physical body, and when it leaves, your energy leaves away from the body, detaches, so to speak, from the body, and then just returns to its natural energetic state. So these energetic blueprints and soul prints, this is who we are. Even as we experience an incarnation, we are fully whole and complete within ourselves. So we have to kind of think about things a different way. I have heard from some people that, oh, you have to wait a couple months before your loved ones come through. Or someone told me that they couldn't do it right away, that it was impossible. You had to wait a few days. That has not been my experience. That's not been Jamie's experience. And so from our own experience, it can be an instantaneous connection. It could be a feeling of your loved one touching your shoulder. It could be a feeling or a vision you have of them smiling at you. It could be a dream state visit where they come and connect and just sit with you. However you experience some of these things, they do want you to know that they are okay as soon as they graduate. This is the biggest thing. And that when they do, they're connecting with their loved ones that have already crossed over, the people that are familiar to them. They meet them, they greet them, they let them know how it works on the other side, what they can do in that energetic state, what they can create, what realities they can build. And so there's a lot of different things that can happen. And even if you don't experience these mediumship experiences right away, it doesn't mean that your loved one isn't trying to connect. Sometimes it's very hard to see through our grief, see through all the feelings that we have after someone passes, because we are in our own story. We are feeling these own things. And I mean, gosh, grief has so many stages to it, right? You have the sadness, you have the anger, you have the denial, you have the guilt, you have all of these phases that you can go through. And it doesn't mean you feel them all at once. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you feel some things more than others. And sometimes you can heal that very quickly and just find that peace within, knowing that your loved one is okay. And so with this in mind, when you want to make your connections with a medium or with your own connections to the other side, there is not a waiting period. And so remember, time's an illusion also, right? Time does not even exist on the other side. So why would there even be a waiting period? That doesn't even make sense when you think about it logically, right? So just keep that in mind, because as these beautiful souls graduate, as we experience losses in our lives and in our communities and in our families and our friends, there's no time like the now to be present with your loved ones, no matter how you connect with them. And sometimes we have to just kind of sit with this, and we have to be in our human experience for a while before we're ready to make those connections ourselves. So take the time to do that. Take the time to process. Take the time to receive counseling if you need it. Receive grief support. Surround yourself with love. Surround yourself with a space that you can heal and you can just experience this process before you jump into it. But when you are ready, your loved ones are right here, right now. Just a thought away.
And they're very much aware of what's going on. I share the fact that there are a lot of times where the morning of a day of appointments, I'll send out an open casting call. And anyone who's connected on the other side to their loved ones that are coming to see me today, that come before me, those of you that are on the other side, please give me information, accuracy, validations, communication, so that they know beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's you. And that's in the morning. Now, I will share the fact that there are times when I haven't done an open casting call, so to speak, and a client who is coming to see me that I have never seen before, the previous day, their loved one was coming to me. Not only that, but our number of times in the morning time before I even see the clients, their loved ones are already coming to me because I've given that open casting call. And they'll come and sit down and I'll give them a lot of accuracy and validations. And then I'll share the fact to go, well, don't you kind of find that interesting? I'm Joe Schmo. I don't think I've ever met you in my life until now, and yet your loved ones knew out of 8 billion people to come to me? How lucky. What a coincidence. There is no luck or coincidence. It is precision. They are open and they will not manipulate, trying to make everyone else make the contact. It's if you're listening, they're going to share the love and the insights. Our job is do the best we can to keep going, to be open for these communications and connections so that we, in our own way and our own time, can start to heal. We can start to live, not just exist. A while ago, a year or so ago, we were talking to a lovely young lady, and her experience was that she was pregnant. And circumstances happened where she lost that beautiful child. She did not give birth to it, and it came in to live in this planet. Well, apparently, shortly after, this lovely woman was up and out and trying to live, and very quickly after that child, that baby graduated life, this young lady felt her child on the side of her spiritually and could feel a hand on her shoulder in this case, and then began to speak to her like an adult in English. I thought that's amazing, because these beautiful children, or animals in some ways, that didn't necessarily make it here to get the vibrational patterns on the ear nubs, in this case of English, and the ability to communicate it effectively. I always say to me, eternally and cosmically, we are all the same age. We are all one. But with that connection, it was powerful, because as this lovely young lady was sharing her experience, I pointed out the fact that, well, isn't that kind of powerful that this beautiful child who didn't necessarily have all of the languages to speak English in this case, and was an infant that didn't necessarily learn that language yet, but was able to come through like an adult, like an older child in this case, and share love, share compassion, and give a chance to heal that relationship. Because when there's nothing you can do but watch that loved one go, you can feel very, very helpless. Our ability is to do the best we can to keep going and give ourselves the blessings, the beautiful blessings of connection. And the more that we make those connections, the more that they will connect with us. We're not making them. They're not stuck. Like I said, if they didn't want to come through, they're not coming through. But they also want us to know that they're amazing, that they feel incredible, because not everyone had lovely experiences and circumstances at the time of their graduation, or death as we perceive it. So again, as soon as you graduate and you feel that love, it is not a scary thing. At least it's never been for myself or anyone that I've ever brought through from the other side, which is right here, right now. And again, just as solid as this dimension. It's not just a bunch of, to me, it's not just a bunch of energy and you don't know anything of where it is and you have no body. I'm like, kind of like here, we have this human body, in this case for this dimension, this vibratory rate, which seems to be perfect for this. It is perfectly aligned for them. And a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times when our loved ones come back, if they had many years of wisdom, older as we perceive it, a lot of times they'll come back as more youthful, more rejuvenated.
So if you have lost a loved one, it doesn't matter if it's been recent or if it's been many, many years. If you're ready to start making those connections, there's several things that you can do to start. There is no time like the moment that you feel like making those connections to make those connections. So get yourself really comfortable in a nice little chair or in whatever place you like to meditate. Maybe you're laying down, maybe you're sitting, but get yourself nice and relaxed, because this is where you are most receptive when you're relaxed. We've done a lot of podcasts on meeting your spiritual team, meeting your master guide. In those podcast episodes, we guide you through a garden where you sit down and you invite your loved one to sit in front of you. We'll put a link in the show notes for that podcast episode. So if you want to work with this with a loved one that's passed, you can easily follow that guided it's almost a guided meditation or a guided scenario where you're just walking through the garden. You're going to meet your guide, or you're going to meet a loved one, whoever it is that you want to meet to talk with. And it's a very meditative, interactive meditative practice that you can actually practice. It doesn't mean that you're going to see and feel things and hear things right away, but be open, because many times you will. You will be, oh my goodness, I felt them. I felt their connection. And just like Jamie said, they're eager on the other side to make these connections, to let us know they're okay. They're eager to sit before us and have those conversations. We are just having to tune into a different station, a different channel, just like we tune the radio dial to a different radio station. We are tuning our mediumship senses to another vibrational field, another, we call it the other side for lack of better word. And with that, we're just tuning in. We're just allowing our perceptions, our senses to explore another place and space, another field of energy. And then again, be open. And then we also have many podcasts on building a spiritual room, on learning how to feel things, how to use your clairvoyance, how to use your clairaudience. And when you go into the spiritual room that you can build for yourself, you can also make your mediumship connections here. It's just a lot of practice. And I find that sometimes, like I said, when we're grieving, when we're feeling all kinds of emotions, sometimes we feel like we can't make those connections or they're not coming in. And it's only because we're in our own emotional place. We're in our own feelings, and they're sometimes very heavy, sometimes very intense. Sometimes we have to actually just sit with how we feel to be able to feel other things. You know, think of these feelings as a river, and then the downpour that happens with the grief energy, you know, boom, there's this huge downpour, and then all of a sudden the river, which was once just flowing very calmly, is now a torrent, and it's guiding you down this process, and it's just ripping you and thrashing you against the rocks and the banks, and you're flowing down this river not knowing when the next rapid is going to come. So in times like when we feel like that, it is harder to feel that still creek as it slowly babbles down, and eventually those rapids calm down. The torrent fades. And in those quiet times, in those reflective times, in the times where we can be still, is the times that we can then hear, we can then experience, and we allow ourselves to feel into other places and spaces, and with those connections with our loved ones. So be still, be calm. And again, if you're very new to these mediumship experiences, and if you're new to this podcast, we do encourage to set up your safety, your rules, and your regulations before making connections to the other side and our psychic connections as well, so that we feel safe and feeling good going into these experiences. So remember that there is a process of connection. 1, have your safety rules and regs first. 2, get yourself as calm as you can. Just allow yourself to be where you are. And then take yourself into the spiritual meditative place, whether you're in the garden meeting your loved ones, whether you're in your own spiritual room, your own sacred meditation room that only you are allowed in until you invite others to it. And enjoy this gentle, gentle process. And again, it's like picking up the phone every day, making those connections to your friend. You can do this with your loved ones as well. And you don't have to wait. It can be immediately after they pass. It could be 5 minutes. It could be an hour. It could be a day. There's really no time relevance when we get to the other side and what they can accomplish from there to here. And like Jamie said, they are here to support us, and they are here to love us.
It's truly all about the love.
We had a few more questions in between season 7 and 8 when we put a little shout out like, hey, send us your questions for season 8. So we want to cover a couple more questions in this podcast as well. And this question is also the life review. What does it entail? Do we have it immediately? Thoughts, Jamie?
Well, not thoughts, but my own experiences. And thankfully, I've never really had to die to have these experiences. I'll share the fact that fairly recently, as a life review, apparently, I was just sitting there, just relaxing, and bip, in an instant, I instantly became everybody I ever interacted with. I felt every single energy exchange and came back to me with the words, how'd you treat yourself? Like, oh, gosh, that we're all one. It's all one. There is no separation. So for myself, at least up until just a little bit ago, my life review was you don't miss anything. Everything is registered in your Solodex as an eternal soul part of consciousness. And when you can start to get your insights in whatever way that you can feel comfortable, that you can nourish your soul, is powerful. And it really becomes that we judge ourselves. Like I say, I can only speak from my own firsthand experiences, but every time I connect, there is no judgment. It is all love. As crazy as it is, love is everywhere and allows everything to be. It's that kind of a connection that my life review is always happening. We're always connected.
And when we leave our physical bodies, we're also leaving the culture we are kind of conditioned with, right? Our brain is very much conditioned to patterning that happens in our world through our culture, our family, our spiritual aspects and beliefs, and any belief that we have. So when we disconnect from the vehicle, we're also disconnecting from a linear perspective, from a time-based linear mode of thinking. And when we connect, we're connecting to the eternality of who we are, the part of us that never dies, right? The energy that keeps living, the soul print that keeps existing. So without having to be conscious in a body and figure out how to be anchored on earth and being this in this experiential planet, we then can tap into that expansiveness. So I believe, I haven't had a life review yet, but I believe it would be instantaneous. Like, why would you not be instantaneous if you're all of a sudden taken out of a reality and put into a new reality, and it's a connected reality of the all that is, was, and will be? Without the body, we have the expansiveness of our energy and our soul in its natural state, in its natural, beautiful, just energetic expression. So I believe that it would probably happen right away when we cross over.
But I still don't understand how that was possible. Just flip that quick, and I became, there was no separation. Everything was interconnected. I could feel each interaction with each soul print of consciousness that I've connected with in my entire life so far. And my thing is that's just this lifetime. What about the myriad of other lifetimes that we have lived as an eternal being? Because I share the fact that, just for me, scientifically, they validated that humans are basically energy, vibrational light beings. And with that definition of being energy, in quantum physics, they found that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. But then I say, but wait a minute. If that means in a very scientific, practical methodology that we are eternal and we have always been, and yet they perceive this universe has only been here 14.8 billion years, we may not be from this universe. I'll guarantee you, as surely as you're seeing or hearing these words, we are eternal.
And the final question here is, when we cross over, if we've been there before, wouldn't we instantly remember and recognize it? And the follow-up is, some ND experiencers can experience places they've never been, and it's not necessarily familiar. So what I have discovered with talking with several of my friends that have had near-death experiences, sometimes it is a place that you're familiar with, that you recognize. And many times it's the loved ones you knew here that have graduated before you that come and greet you and meet you. And then they show you the ropes, right? They're like, this is what you can do here in this place. This is what it's like. You have like a little training ground, right? You have a little powwow. You have a connection. It's like a family reunion. And sometimes that isn't the same as what you knew here. Yet we did do an episode on, can you have a physical body when you cross over? So listen to that if you want to see what kind of realities you could create, because they're limitless. There's absolutely no limitations. So whatever you experience is what is going to be for your soul's growth, your soul's evolution, and where you're at. And as soon as you move into that love vibration, as soon as you move into that light, as soon as you cross over and you make those connections, the world's your oyster. You don't have the same rules as you have here. You actually have very few rules compared to what you have when you're in a physical body and in a vehicle. So yes, you might recognize it. No, you might not. If that's your journey, I think this is such an individual expression. You know, it's like a dream. No two dreams are ever going to be the same. People don't always dream their realities as they know them here on this planet, nor are they going to always experience the same reality in a different dimension or as they cross over into a different plane of existence, so to speak. So be open. I think that there really are not too many rules of what happens when you cross over. I think it's an individual experience. It's a reconnection to your soul. It's a reconnection to the all that is, was, and will be, and feeling, like Jamie said, the love, the interconnectedness of the world as and the universes and all of it is just all one. It's all connected. It's all like these fibers and threads of the divine creative matrix and the expression of the divine that runs through that whole process and through that whole experience.
And it's really a beautiful aspect that our loved ones want us to be okay. They want us to be happy and to live. It's ourselves that have to empower ourselves and allow ourselves to live. And when we can begin to bring ourselves into life and find ourselves within that life, we find that life within us and bring it to the surface of consciousness and live life.
Thank you all so much for tuning in today. We appreciate you, and our love goes out to everyone who is craving these connections. They are possible. Keep the faith, keep your light, keep your heart open, and be willing just to be open and receive in the beautiful feelings that you have going forward, making these connections with your loved ones on the other side at any time.